Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. You've had 2 weeks off, Tony. 2 weeks? How did you spend all that time away?
I'm Tony Kornheiser, playing golf, taking naps, sexting.
What?
Wait, texting.
No, too late.
What did I say?
It's out. It's out. It's on Twitter.
Texting.
Oh, it's out on Twitter right now.
I learned
Social
how to
media.
text. I've texted you.
Kornheiser's sexting.
No.
You still got the Queen's number? Huh?
That's fine. The Queen's number.
Just asking.
I got her number. It's number one.
I'm just asking.
Welcome back to PTI, boys and girls. I am back,
Yeah.
baby. And in today's episode, the Cubs look good. Lonzo Ball is limping, and Roger Federer wins another major. I can't believe anyone would have ever doubted him.
Not us.
But we begin today with the not surprising news that the Washington Redskins could not get a deal with their quarterback, Kirk Cousins. The Redskins put out a statement that they offered Cousins a contract for $53 million guaranteed and $72 million guaranteed for injury. By failing to sign Cousins to a long-term deal, the Redskins now will franchise him for a second straight year. This year will cost them $24 million. Should they franchise him again next year?
How much?
It will cost them $34 million. Well, by putting out that statement, aren't the Redskins trying to make Cousins look greedy?
Well, they're certainly trying to make themselves look less like the bad guy, which is often how they're portrayed in Washington, and fairly so, in my opinion. But this is now, Tony, a contentious relationship. Because Cousins is not going to be able to just report to camp and say, let me throw and get myself together and get in perfect game shape. No, he's going to be asked about this at every turn. And the Redskins will be asked, and there will be leaks. This is Washington, D.C. This team is as much covered as any, and closely covered, as any team in the league except probably the New York teams. So, and the Patriots maybe. So this is potentially contentious now.
It's not potentially contentious.
It is contentious.
No, it's totally
contentious. You haven't officially been.
Let me go through the numbers for a second.
Woo.
I would not have taken this deal if I was Kirk Cousins for two reasons. One, the numbers. You offer me $53 million guaranteed. If you franchise me again, I get a total of $58 million guaranteed for 2 years. So why would I take less money?
Only one.
You're afraid of injury?
Risk. Yeah.
Okay. Kirk Cousins is betting on himself, which a lot of athletes do.
Yeah.
The second reason this is important is there are now two former offensive coordinators who work with Kirk Cousins, who are head coaches in the league. Sean McVay is the head coach of Los Angeles Rams, I believe.
Yeah.
And Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the San Francisco 49ers, who have no quarterback, by the way. Absolutely no quarterback at the moment. Where if Cousins has a good year, he's going to get bids like nobody has ever gotten bids. The Redskins offered him more money than almost anybody in the league, and he's going to go higher.
We are accustomed to seeing professional football players opt for security for one primary reason: they get hurt. But I will say to you, well, when is the last time a starting quarterback in this league got hurt and couldn't get his career back on track?
I'll give you one.
Oh, wait, the guy playing in front of him who made this possible for him.
And the reason Robert
RG3.
Griffin, the reason he plays into this is because it is very clear that the owner of the Redskins and the general manager of the Redskins, or president of the organization, Bruce Allen, always wanted Griffin ahead of Cousins.
That's right.
Cousins lives here and knows that and sees this, so he's not going to sign with
He also,
them.
Tony, is saying, or his agent, somebody's saying in concert, we don't want to be with you people.
That's what he's saying.
We don't want a long-term marriage with you.
That's what
we
he's
got
saying.
other suitors out there. We got people we respect more, and that is why we think this is contentious.
By his inaction in taking this deal, that is exactly what
I want
he's
out
saying.
at some point. How's this play out?
Unless you pay me $34 million next year, I'll stay. Because $34 million is a lot. Because basketball players don't make that.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
Tony, because you joined that super senior golf tour, you missed out last week on wall-to-wall Lonzo Ball talk. Well, it's a new week, and we got a new Lonzo issue, like the Lakers' decision to hold him out of tonight's Summer League championship game. Young Lonzo was pulled from the semis last night with some calf tightness. This after having 16 points, 10 dimes, no turnovers. The kid's been great in Summer League. Anyway, Lonzo said he wanted to play tonight, but the Lakers took the cautious road. Tony, it's Summer League. Really?
This is a calf strain. This is not an Achilles injury. This is not a torn ACL. This is a calf strain. This kid is 19 years old. If he doesn't play in this game tonight, he's going to go outside in a pickup game, and he's going to play. Don't overthink this. Don't overthink this. The season is 3 months away, and it is a calf strain. Even if I were the Lakers doctors, I probably would have let him play this game. People want to see him. I told you this before. He's the only person I cared about in that draft. I wanted to see where he was going. Nobody else means anything to me. He is a full-blown star already. Nobody else in that draft is a full-blown star.
You know, star is one thing. The kid the Celtics drafted, which they got with the third pick, which they say they would have taken with the first pick, the Duke kid, he looks great so
He's
far.
the Duke kid.
Now, let's get back to
Lonzo Ball, a star.
Let's get back to this. The coddling of NBA players at every level. At some point, you say, "Oh my God!" Now I'm going to sound like an old man. I'm happy to sound like one.
You are.
I'm happy to sound like, Charles Oakley and Scotty and all the. I'm happy to sound like all these old guys who say, "What?" Yeah, because they did. They had to have clauses in their contracts that kept them from playing. Remember when the Bulls said to Jordan, "No, we're going to stop you from playing in the summer and on playgrounds." And now, Tony, they just hold them out. I'm with all the old guys.
Here's Lonzo
really?
Ball. He has 2 triple-doubles already. No one else even had one in the summer league. He has 4 10-assist games. Nobody else even had 2.
2 of those 10-assist games in the first half.
Let me explain to people something.
The 10-assist game in the first half.
There was a conversation on a golf course yesterday about how good Lonzo Ball might or might not be with a golfer who will stay unnamed on this show.
Okay.
But this dominates Lonzo Ball is a full-blown star.
If you pay attention to basketball, you got to pay attention to this kid.
And he doesn't even wear his own
we can't
sneakers.
even see him tonight. It's like the regular season when they hold out 5 people on a Saturday night.
The biggest surprise of the first half of the baseball season was how terrible the Chicago Cubs were. They weren't even 500, but they have come out of the break on fire. They just completed a 3-game sweep of the Baltimore Orioles in which they outscored Baltimore 27-11. And prized pitching acquisition Jose Quintana went 7 shutout innings with 12 strikeouts. Wilbon, did your Cubs just turn everything around?
No, didn't turn it around. I think now, you asked me this about a month ago, and I said to you, no, and they were still in the dumper. I think this is the start of that. They could be, and I think they will turn things around. Are turning. But there's some games that are coming up, and I don't mean the next 3 against Atlanta. There's a weekend series against the St. Louis Cardinals, and yes, we still hate them, even though they're not the Cardinals right now. We. Then there's a series against the White Sox, and the White Sox are nothing, but that's always contentious. 4 games, 2 in each park. And then
they're also
a trip to Milwaukee. A trip to Milwaukee.
2 weeks.
Milwaukee's in first place. I know you're not paying attention to that division.
No, I know that.
You only got time for your division.
Wait.
So if we can cut that lead from 4.5 games, which I think it is now, to a game and a half, even 2.5, they need to win 10 or 15. This is a too small a sample size. I want a bigger sample size.
This is baseball. There's 162 games in a season. The best team actually does win. It's 162 games. That's what happens. You don't go from being the World Series champions to being nothing. That doesn't happen. They've got hitting. They had pitching last year.
Starting pitching.
They had pitching last year. Starting pitching, struggling right now. They are too good to end up as not part of this conversation. And I know they're behind the Brewers, but they're not behind the Dodgers. They're behind the Brewers.
Yeah.
The Brewers are a catchable team. I believe that the Cubs are going to go 20 games over in the second half of the season.
I hope you're right. And I think they can. And Quintana, they needed a lift in that clubhouse.
That's right. Sure.
And all those guys knew that. And maybe they need a lift from John Lester, who's already on the roster in this Atlanta series tonight, tomorrow, whatever game 1 of that series is. But, Tony, there's a lot of time. I think they are going to turn it around. Have they turned it around on 3 games against Baltimore? Not yet. Your anxiety level, always through the roof, ought to be lower today. Why? Because your Washington Nationals went out and got bullpen help. Sean Doolittle and Ryan Madsen, compliments of the god-awful Oakland A's, are riding to your rescue, Tony.
Yep.
Doolittle is perfect this season against lefties. And Madsen has been lights out in the 7th and 8th. Guys hitting 188 against him. After saving 30 games for the A's last year. Tone, you popping the champagne now? Didn't Mike Rizzo just fix the Nats bullpen?
Not exactly. Now, he did a very good thing in getting rid of Blake Trinan because Blake Trinan was a closer who failed early in the season, and you can't have that linger. You can't have a guy who failed linger when you go through a pennant
I forget about
run.
what was. Let's talk about what is now.
Okay. You talked about small sample size for the Cubs. You have no sample size with the Nats for these people.
Those guys,
with the
they
Nats.
pitched all season?
I talked to Tim Kirchin on the podcast today.
Okay.
And Timmy said neither one is a closer. He said that Madsen wants to go in the 7th and the 8th. Right. His ERA in the 9th is 1 full run higher, so he's not a comfortable
7th
9th
and 8th,
guy.
set up.
Right.
You need
You
set
need
up.
a closer. You need a closer.
Get time.
And Doolittle has become, not only is he physically fragile, but he's somewhat of a specialist against lefties, and he's been great. Does this help? It helps. Does it give him a closer? No. They think that Coda Glover would be the closer sometime in the future. So I think they have to go out and make another trade. And I think they will. That would be great.
Tony,
that would be great.
He's not finished. Rizzo knows the deal on this.
There's
he knows what a special team he is.
So when you say, you're not popping champagne corks, what you're doing, You're buying the champagne and putting it in the freezer,
told you
but you're not
yesterday,
popping it.
speaking of conversations on golf courses, I said you need 3 guys coming out of that bullpen. You need an acquisition of 3. Here's 2. And there's one to come.
Yeah.
And you're going to be fine. It's going to be
I hope that's true.
and the Dodgers.
You know
and I
why?
hope the unnamed third team will join the fray.
Because the Nats really hit. And
they do.
Very often, they don't need a closer because they're 7, 8, 9.
But here's what they need. They need guys in the 7th and 8th innings not to give up 6.
Roger Federer won Wimbledon yesterday for a record 8th time. Federer is 35 years old, the oldest man to ever win Wimbledon in the Open era. He did not drop a single set, becoming the first player since Bjorn Borg in 1976 to do that. Federer now has the Australian Open and Wimbledon in his pocket this year, and he didn't lose the French, he skipped it. Wilbon, are we seeing one of the great career resurrections in sports history?
No, Roger Federer is too good to say he needed resurrection. You got to be dead to be resurrected. And let me just say, I'll speak for both of us who years ago said, we think he's done. And you know what good company we were joined by? Roger Federer, who said yesterday, are you kidding me? No, I didn't think this was going to happen. I didn't think I'd win 1 major, much less 2. So in 1 year. So Roger Federer dismissed himself as that kind of champion. All credit to the greatest player in the history to me now of tennis. I think Roger Federer is that. But resurrection, no.
That's the second point we'll get to, what you just said. I made a list of some people who have been resurrected. I would say Ryan Zimmerman this year with the Nats is a resurrection. I would say Kurt Warner with Arizona when he had no thumb and he couldn't play anymore. Right. I would say Bernard King with the Washington Bullets when he couldn't play.
Too. He had no knee earlier.
Michael Vick with the Philadelphia Eagles, though he wasn't great, he was resurrected. Federer was making semis and making finals.
Of course, he was too good.
The question is he the greatest player ever? And the problem with that is Rafael Nadal owns him. Their career head-to-head, Mike, is 23-14, but on clay, it's 14-1. So that other than clay, where Nadal may be the greatest player of all time, other than clay, Federer leads 13-9. So I think you can say that Federer may be the greatest player of all time if you say Nadal's the greatest clay court player.
I got one other problem.
What?
This is going to sound like my criticism year-long of the NBA. Federer took 6 months off. It's fine. He's old. He can take whatever time he wants. He's old. But then when you skip a major championship, a Grand Slam event, greatness to me means you don't take time off. The all-time greats. Did Ruth go away for a while? Did Joe Louis go away? When he came back, it was a resurrection. I'm talking about the greatest athletes of all time. They don't just say, I'm skipping this one. That's the only... and I know it's a new day.
I just want to get the quote. The great ones don't take time off.
Well,
but yet in the summer you take Thursdays and Fridays. Let's take a break. Coming up, Jackie Bradley Jr. made a heck of a catch last night, but is it really everything that people are making it out to be?
Yeah, I don't take Mondays off, and that's the day. Several networks will broadcast OJ's parole hearing. God help us.
No, I'm watching. I'm watching. I am. I'm watching.
And I didn't take 2 weeks off.
I took 1 week off. We had no show for a week.
I did one of those pop vacations.
It's mail time where you pick the topics and we are forced to consider them, which is demeaning.
Be nice.
Let me get
Come on, you're cranky. You're supposed to be energetic today.
Did Jackie Bradley Jr. make the catch of the year to rob Aaron Judge?
Yes. Judge hits this ball to the deepest part of Fenway, and it's going to go over the fence back there at 420, except... I hate when editors would say to me when I was a young sports writer, you need to say, take an extra base hit away. No, old fool. He took a home run away from your boy, who's now like 1 for 18 since the, whatever that's called, home run derby.
Where he was magnificent,
that
by
catch,
the way.
And considering it's Yankee Sox and all of that.
I think you're overrating it a little bit because it's Yankee Sox. I think that the Miami left fielder made a better catch on the same night, but it's not as sexy.
That was a great catch.
The greater issue here is Aaron Judge. Is that the home run he needs to get to 50? Is that the home run he needs to get to 40? Because he's 1 for 18 since the home run derby, and everybody now studies tape on this kid.
He's getting to 40.
Here's the pitch we can get him out.
I told you, when you weren't here, you were on the golf course. 50's not happening. And, they're also going to learn how to pitch him. And that's just one. That's a catch, Tony. 420 feet straight away.
Watch the Miami left fielder.
He hung on the wall. He climbed on. He had a prop.
Like Spider-Man.
He had a ladder.
He made a great play.
It doesn't make it better. It's not as good. Steph Curry's final round. Did it convince you he has a shot at success on the web.com tour?
If I understand this correctly, he shot 68 in a celebrity golf tournament. 68's a great score. He said it was the best round he ever had in his life. But I'm going to stress celebrity golf tournament. The Web.com tour is real golf. There's going to be 64s and 65s thrown out there.
Bigger galleries here, more pressure in some ways here.
I don't know, because he's going to be everybody in that field is going to be better.
Has shot 68 this week.
He's a scratch. These guys are +2, +3, +4. So I think, and I really like Steph Curry, and I'm glad he's going to play. I think he's going to get waxed.
I love this, and I love talking about golf with Steph Curry. Steph Curry, by the way, some people thought had a better career coming out of high school as a potential professional golfer than basketball player, where he had limited offers. But remember. I'm just saying.
Turned out differently.
It turned out differently.
Come on.
But he loves golf. He's obsessed with golf.
Good.
This is what he does. I mean, he plays more rounds of golf than he plays NBA games.
How's he going to do?
It's going to be hard.
Yes.
Mr. Romo, are you not rooting for him?
I am totally
rooting for
Steph.
rooting for him.
I'm
By the
just
way,
saying.
he, like you, has PXGs. I don't have those. How'd that happen?
I don't know. Probably the great ones take too much time off. Michael Irvin told TMZ he wants an MMA fight. Is that a good idea?
No. And Michael Irvin, like my dear friend Kendall Gill, these are guys who were professional athletes for a long time, and they stay in unbelievable shape into their 40s toward 50.
He's
Kendall may even be 50. Okay, so these guys are 50. They stay in unbelievable shape with MMA training. They're wondrous athletes.
Yep.
Do not get into the ring with a real MMA fighter where there's nobody who's going to – it's not training. This is fighting. No, don't do this.
You know how much I love Michael Irvin.
We love him.
Love Michael Irvin. I go all the way back with Michael Irvin to the U. Gave me the greatest quote I've ever had. Yeah, that's us. Number one UPI, number one FBI, for those of you who remember the wire services. Mike, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, he's 51 now, I believe.
More than that,
He's going to be in the ring with a 25-year-old kid who's a stone-cold killer. And he's going to wake up and say, what happened to me? Can't
he and Jay Glazer just do a series of exhibitions?
That's not
That would be fun, right?
Yes, but
Michael sees himself as a young, angry, tough kid in Miami. Guess what, Mike? You're rich and you're fat kid.
That's right.
That's what you are now.
That's right.
Come on, don't do this. I want to see you get all busted up. You going to spend any time watching O.J. Simpson's parole hearing?
If the question is, will I spend any time? Yes, I will spend any time. I will spend some time watching this. ESPN, for example, is going to televise it for 90 minutes beginning on Thursday at 1 p.m., I believe. Will I watch all of it? No, because it's a parole hearing. I'm not going to watch all of it, and they probably won't render a verdict that day. But yes, I'm going to watch. I want to see what he looks like. I want to see how he's aged. It's irresistible to me. If you put that on, I will watch some of it.
Well, I guess that's why it's on, because there are enough people like you, and I find it embarrassing. I find it just pandering to the lowest possible.
Am I disagreeing with you?
Common denominator.
I'm just saying I'm watching it.
It's unthinkable. I don't want to see OJ anymore. Yes, both of us, to be fully declarative, have had relationships, professionally and personally, with O.J. Simpson. Those days have gone by decades.
Ezra Edelman won an Oscar for an 8-hour movie.
Okay, that was informative, and it was also entertaining in an awful, sad way.
I'm watching.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
No, let's take one last break. It's news.
Watch it. It's not news.
Sad.
Don't give me
news. But still to come, LeBron.
Fake news.
Reportedly frustrated with the Cavs offseason. Again.
The Rockets are suddenly for sale. What are prospective bidders going to make of the team's massive commitment to the beard?
It's going to push them away a little bit.
Don't watch this OJ thing.
Just a little.
No,
I will watch
sad.
a little.
This is...
Daddy, where do babies come from?
Honey?
Mommy went to the store.
Oh, well, you see, there's a mommy and a daddy, right?
Right.
And see, when they call Geico, they could save a bunch of money on car insurance.
Oh, really? And that makes them happy?
Yes, that makes them very happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we could have this talk, Sunshine.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Happy time, people. Happy 50th birthday, Kevin Pritchard. Pritchard was the starting point guard on Kansas's 1988 NCAA championship team, coached by Larry Brown. After an undistinguished career as a player in the NBA, he became prominent as an executive. GM in Indiana, he is tasked with making the Pacers competitive after trading away Paul George for what many people believe is a bag of beans.
Hey.
We root for him because he was a really good guest here.
Well, he has been, and I think he's good at his job. And let's not make Paul Pierce Michael Jordan. A fine player, irreplaceable. I think Pritchard can do this. I think he can.
Paul George, not Paul Pierce. Happy
what'd I
anniversary,
say?
Tiger
Did I
Woods.
say Paul
On this
Pierce?
day 12 years ago, you won the British Open by 5 strokes at St. Andrews. giving you your 10th of 14 major championships. Today, Woods fell out of the top 1,000 in the world golf ranking.
So did you and I, because we're not playing like Tiger. Did I say Paul Pierce?
You did.
Because I work with Paul Pierce now.
Everybody knows that.
You know?
A melancholy happy trails to Bob Wolf, the Hall of Fame sports announcer, died over the weekend at the age of 96.
Man.
In a broadcast career that spans 7 decades, Wolf, among other things, was the play-by-play voice of the Washington Senators in baseball and the New York Knicks in basketball. Among the games Bob Wolf got to call were Don Larson's perfect game for the Yankees in the 1956 World Series and the Baltimore Colts' overtime victory against the New York Giants in 1958 that has been referred to ever since as the greatest game ever played.
Each of those arguably is the greatest game in that sport. Only he and Kirk Gowdy among broadcasters are in the basketball and baseball halls of fame, respectively. When you see a guy with a picture of Babe Ruth and Roger Maris, for us, that does something.
It's a big deal. No errors today. Let's go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
USA Today says LeBron James is, quote, frustrated and concerned, unquote, about the Cavs offseason. Is that a big deal?
Well, LeBron has successfully leveraged that every year, but now, do they have any wiggle room to do anything? Does it matter?
No.
The Panthers fired GM Dave Gettleman today. You surprised?
I was surprised because there's only 9 days before camp, but a lot of guys who went out the door under Gettleman
They're tweeting their brains
celebrated
out.
that he got fired. Yes.
Glasses
the Houston
raised.
Rockets say they are for sale. Could that mess everything up?
Les Alexander, what's it going to mess up? But they there's rich people who could pay $1.6 billion or so for the Houston Rockets. Rookie Sung Young Park won the U.S. Women's Open. Significant.
You have to wait and see because she's a rookie. It's a great start. It's a fantastic win,
Great
but you
story.
have to wait and see.
Yeah.
Last one, the Indians have lost 4 straight. Do you like them to turn it around against the Giants?
Well, everybody turns it around against the Giants. The Giants are having a miserable time. The Indians, you thought, had found themselves right before the break, but now, maybe. Not committed.
We're out of time. We'll try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I am rooting for the Indians in the American League this year, Tony. I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts.
Alan and Matt, good job in our flight. Shout out. Beat our brains out.
PTI.